It's the hottest day of the year and you're doing everything right. You've got the fan pointed straight at your face. You just took an ice cold shower. There's a glass of ice water sweating on the table next to you. And yet, an hour later, you're still miserable, flushed, headachy, somehow hotter than before. So you crank the fan higher, grab more ice, and wonder what you're doing wrong. And the strange answer is almost all of it. Because nearly everything people instinctively do to cool down in a heat wave targets the wrong thing entirely. It makes you feel cooler for a few minutes while doing almost nothing about the one number that actually decides whether you're in danger. Here's the thing you have to understand first because it changes everything else. When a heat wave kills someone, it's not because their skin got hot. It's because their core got hot. The deep temperature of the blood around your heart, your brain, your organs. That core sits at about 37 degrees and it has a hard ceiling. Push it past roughly 40 and your proteins start to unravel, your organs start to fail, and heat stroke sets in. So the entire game of surviving heat isn't about feeling cool on the surface. It's about pulling heat out of that core faster than the day pours it in. And once you understand that, you can see exactly why the usual tricks fail and what actually works. Let's start with the ice cold shower because it feels like the ultimate move and it's one of the biggest mistakes. Ice cold water hitting your skin does something clever and completely counterproductive. It shocks the blood vessels near the surface into clamping shut. That's called vasoconstriction. Your body thinks it's suddenly in danger of getting too cold, so it pulls blood away from the skin to protect the core. But your skin is exactly where you dump heat. By slamming it with ice water, you've just closed the doors that were letting heat escape. You feel amazing for 90 seconds. Then you rebound hotter than before because all that core heat is now trapped inside with nowhere to go. The fix is almost annoyingly simple. Use cool water, not ice cold. Lukewarm to cool keeps those surface vessels open and dilated, so warm blood keeps flowing to the skin and shedding heat the whole time. Now, here's a trick that actually works, and it's built on the plumbing of your own body. In a few specific places, big blood vessels run close to the surface of your skin, your wrists, the sides of your neck, your temples, the inside of your elbows, behind your knees. These are pulse points, and they're basically exposed radiators. Cool the skin over a pulse point, and you're not just cooling that patch of skin, you're cooling the blood running through it. And that blood then circulates back to your core, carrying the cold with it. A cool, damp cloth on the back of your neck and your wrists will drop your core temperature far more effectively than pouring the same water over your head. You're targeting the radiator, not the paint job. Which brings us to the single most powerful cooling tool you have, and it's the same one your body already uses evaporation. Remember, sweat doesn't cool you by sitting on your skin. It cools you when it leaves, when it turns to vapor and carries heat away with it. You can supercharge this manually. Wet your skin, a damp shirt, a spray bottle, a wet cloth, and then get air moving across it. That's when a fan finally earns its place. Not blasting your dry face, but blowing across wet skin, dragging that moisture off, and taking your body heat with it. Wet skin plus moving air is one of the most efficient cooling systems on the planet, and it costs almost nothing. But, and this is the part almost no one is told, that system has a limit, and it's the same limit that makes humid heat so deadly. Evaporation only works if the air has room to accept the water. On a dry day, a wet cloth and a fan will cool you beautifully. But when the humidity climbs and the air is already saturated, your sweat can't evaporate. The wet cloth just sits there, and the fan stops helping. In fact, once the air temperature climbs above your own body temperature, past about 37, 38 degrees, a fan blowing dry hot air across you actually pushes heat in, like a convection oven. That's why health agencies warn that in extreme heat, a fan alone can do more harm than good. The fan isn't magic. It's a tool for moving evaporation along, and when evaporation dies, so does the fan's usefulness. So what do you do when it's that hot? When the wet bulb is high and evaporation is off the table? You stop trying to fight the air and you change your environment instead. This is where the boring advice turns out to be the advice that actually saves lives. Air conditioning isn't a luxury in a severe heat wave. It's the only reliable way to pull heat out of a body when your own cooling system has stalled. If you don't have it, the goal is to reach somewhere that does. A library, a mall, a shopping center, an official cooling center. A few hours in air conditioning during the hottest part of the day resets your core and buys your body the recovery it can't get anywhere else. It isn't giving up. It's the one move the physics actually rewards. And you can turn your own home into a weapon if you play the day right. Heat is a slow flood, and timing is everything. During the day, keep the sun out. Close blinds and curtains on the sunny side because a huge amount of indoor heat comes straight through glass. Then, once the outside air finally drops below the inside temperature, usually late at night or before dawn, throw the windows open and flush the hot air out, ideally pulling a cross breeze through the house. Close it all up again before the morning sun hits. You're not cooling the house with magic, you're catching the cool air when it exists and locking it in before the heat comes back. Then there's the fuel side, and it ties straight back to what's happening in your blood. When you sweat buckets, you're not just losing water, you're losing salt, the sodium your nerves and muscles run on. Drink steadily throughout the day before you feel thirsty, because in serious heat, thirst lags behind what you've already lost. But if you're sweating hard for hours, plain water alone isn't enough. You need to replace electrolytes too, or you risk diluting your sodium dangerously low. And skip the things that quietly sabotage you. Alcohol and heavy hot meals both make your body work harder and generate more internal heat at the worst possible time. Light meals, steady fluids, a pinch of salt if you're sweating for hours. Your insides are a chemistry set, and heat is trying to tip it over. So let's put the whole thing back together, because once you see the logic, every piece clicks. It was never about feeling cool on your skin, it was about pulling heat out of your core. So you keep your blood vessels open with cool water instead of slamming them shut with ice. You cool the pulse points to chill the blood itself, not just the surface. You wet your skin and move air across it to weaponize evaporation, right up until the humidity kills it, at which point you stop fighting the air and get to air conditioning, the only thing that still works. You time your house against the sun, keeping heat out by day and flushing it out by night. And you keep your internal chemistry balanced with steady fluids and salt while avoiding the alcohol and heavy food that stoke the fire from inside. Your body is an incredible machine for surviving heat, but in a real heat wave, it needs you to stop fighting it and start helping it. Almost everything that feels like relief, the ice bath, the fan on your dry face, the big cold drink, is comfort, not cooling. The moves that actually work are quieter, less dramatic, and far more effective because they're aimed at the one thing that matters, the heat buried deep inside you, and getting it out before it climbs too high. Feeling cool is easy. Being cool, where it counts, is a different skill entirely. And now you have it. So the next time a heat wave rolls in, remember, don't chase the feeling of cool, chase the heat leaving your body. Cool your pulse points, wet your skin, find the air conditioning, and let your body do what it's built to do. If this changed the way you think about beating the heat, hit subscribe. We break down the hidden science of everyday things every single week. And I want to hear from you. What's your go-to trick for surviving a brutal hot day? Drop it in the comments. Let's see whose actually works and whose just feels nice. Stay curious, stay cool. I'll see you in the next one.